you want to start a garden, attract a lot of pollinators, plant colorful flowers, and save water, planting a native garden can accomplish this. I'm here at the Lake Cunningham Native Plant Garden with Arvin and Vicki from the California Native Plant Society to learn more about how to do this. Arvin, why is it important to grow native plants in California?
That's a really good question. A lot of people ask, what is so special about native plants? And the answer is that native plants have evolved in our soil, in our climate for thousands of years. And our wildlife has also co-evolved with them. So native plants are the best providers of food, nectar, shelter to our wildlife. And to give you an example, our valley oaks support up to 300 different species of wildlife. Compare that against eucalyptus, which is a native plant of Australia, but not native to California, and it doesn't provide as much habitat as our oaks do. So that's what makes native plants really special.
We're standing in front of the oldest valley oak in Lake Cunningham Park. This oak predates the park. Arvin, perhaps you can tell us a little bit more about the valley oak.
I would love to. I'm so glad that we are visiting this oak. Um, if you came to the Santa Clara Valley 300 years ago, you would find a large, vast grassland studded with valley oaks at large intervals. And that's called an oak savanna or an oak grassland. And the signature oak of our area is this tree, the valley oak. And this oak is a whole ecosystem unto itself. It supports something like 300 species of different kinds of organisms. And it lives for 600 years. So imagine the impact that each valley oak has on the ecosystem.
How do native plants improve the habitat for local wildlife, particularly birds?
Our native species of birds, our residents and our migratory birds, have evolved in this setting of California. So they are familiar with the plants that occur in California, the native plants that occur in California. And that's what they have learned to use for shelter and for food. So anytime that you plant a native plant garden, you are extending the wildlands into your area, your neighborhood, and that provides food and shelter, really good food for birds and shelter into your neighborhood. So you're improving the ecosystem even within the city.
Yes, Vicki, what is that you have in your hand?
I have oak galls in my hand, and these were created by an insect, a parasitic wasp. I believe that in the early fall or even into the late fall, she comes only to the valley oak tree and lays her eggs by inserting her ovipositor underneath the bark. And when that happens, you can see right here, this is part of the twig. This is the oak gall that's fallen off the tree. This is like no longer housing insects at all. But when she lays her eggs in the twig, the valley oak tree, in response to that, forms this material around her eggs. And her eggs hang out in here. This is like a little nursery. They munch away on the inside, and as time goes on, probably in the late spring, they go to their next life stage. They come out, they hang out here, and they fall to the ground. And then they hang out in the leaf litter. That after they fall into the ground, they go to their next life stage, which is the resting stage or the pupa. So they hang around in the leaf litter of the tree, and then probably in the late summer, they emerge from their pupa and they fly out as little parasitic wasps. And the journey continues. Well, native plants bloom and fruit all throughout the year. So at all seasons, they are providing food for the birds that will come to your native plant garden. Berries, flowers, hummingbirds. Manzanitas will bloom as early as November. So hummingbirds and ants are coming to manzanitas. And some native plants will bloom into the summer, providing nectar and berries eventually when the flowers fruit for the birds that are here in the fall time. I'm here today to talk to you about one of my favorite shrubs, and probably one of the reasons why it's one of my favorite shrubs. It's a high nectar flower for pollinators and hummingbirds. But this shrub cannot bloom enough, and it's quite versatile. Right now, you see it as a low growing shrub. In its younger days, it was a tall plant, and then something happened to it. People ran over it. Maybe the snow got too heavy for it. I don't know. But it got broken down, and so now it's just continuing its growth and being a low growing shrub. In point of fact, this can grow to be a tree, and it will bloom all months of the year. It just cannot stop blooming.
I'm standing in front of one of the most beautiful shrubs in all of California. It's called toyon, and you can see the red berries behind me as well as those that I'm holding in my hand. And these red berries are ripe right now, and they are just beloved by songbirds. We just observed American robin, cedar waxwing, even a ground squirrel climbing up into this shrub to taste the berries. Toyon is a all year round green shrub that looks good 12 months of the year. In late April and May, it has tiny white flowers that attract a lot of different kinds of insects. And those flowers mature into green berries, which will ripen by late November, December. And at one time, the shrub behind me was just covered with red berries. And now, at this point in January, half of those berries have been eaten, and yet the shrub continues to attract wildlife. So if you have the space for a large shrub in your garden, a toyon will not disappoint you. It's one of the most beautiful shrubs of our state.
What advice do you have for people who want to start using more native plants in their landscapes?
If you're new to native plants and you want to start, the best place to start is the Native Plant Society. It has a website. We organize native garden tours. We organize seed and cutting exchanges. We have a ton of YouTube videos on how to start a native plant garden. And I would recommend to people that they start small. They identify a few plants that they want to introduce to their garden, get some experience with that before scaling up to a bigger part of the garden. I want to share with you a different kind of sage. The plant we're looking at now is called hummingbird sage. And you can see that it's actually in flower right now with pink blossoms. And the interesting thing about these blossoms is that the length of the flower tube matches very closely our native Anna's hummingbird's beak length. And it's really well named because we see hummingbirds by this patch all the time, guarding this territory as if it's theirs. The plant is very fragrant and it has its own unique smell. Many people compare it to a pineapple-y kind of scent. You can plant this in your front yard, by paths, wherever you're likely to be walking next to it. You'll get this wonderful aroma coming out. This is a herbaceous perennial, and the only maintenance it needs is once a year. In the winter, cut it down to the ground, and it's going to grow back from root again.
What do you see as the biggest challenges facing California's native ecosystems right now?
Well, our ecosystems face a lot of challenges. Unfortunately, all of them are caused by us, humans. Examples are urbanization, sprawl housing, um, even farming, ranching, building of dams, impacts native ecosystems unless they've been planned thoughtfully. And a key thing to remember is that the air we breathe, the oxygen we all need to survive, is produced by plants. In fact, large-scale native plant ecosystems sustain life on this earth. Think about water. Native plant ecosystems are purifying, filtering our water, and putting clean water in our lakes, in our streams, in our rivers. And so it's very important for all of us to conserve the native habitats we have on Earth, but also to restore degraded habitat and to introduce natural systems wherever possible. I'm standing next to one of the most versatile shrubs you can plant in your garden. This is the California buckwheat, and this plant flowers in the summertime. In late June and early July is when it's covered with white flowers. What you're seeing mostly is the seeds that have persisted on the shrub that the birds like to come and eat. But believe it or not, there are actually a few blossoms on this particular plant. This plant is evergreen, requires no summer water, and it just supports a wide variety of pollinators, butterflies, bees. You will see insects coming to your shrub that you've never observed in your garden before if you plant a buckwheat in your garden. Very easy to take care of. At the park, we let it expand as much as it wants, but in a home garden, if you have limited space, you can prune it to the ground in December, and it will stay its small, manageable size for a long, long time. So really low maintenance, easy to care plant with high habitat value. Every garden should have a buckwheat.
Can you tell us more about the California Native Plant Society? What priorities and focus areas do you have for conservation and restoration?
So, California Native Plant Society has many chapters. For each county of California, we have a chapter of the Native Plant Society. And our policies and our guidelines are based on ecology and biology and botany. It's a science-based organization that, except for the main chapter in Sacramento that has staff, it's a volunteer organization of people who are concerned about the environment, about how to reverse climate change. So we use those science-based studies to set our policies and govern whatever direction or whatever projects that we have in mind.
Hi, I'm Steve Hartman, Board President of the California Native Plant Society. CNPS is one of the biggest, most effective, and longest-standing environmental conservation organizations in the state. We need your help in supporting our work in conservation, education, plant science, and horticulture. So there's lots of ways to get involved in the Native Plant Society, and it's very easy. Please help us restore nature one garden at a time. Joining the California Native Plant Society is a fantastic opportunity for people who want to learn more about identifying native plants. There's 6,000 native plants in California. If you like the outdoors and want to be able to go on easy-paced field trips and learn a lot about the plants, this would be the thing for you to do. The great thing about taking a hike with the Native Plant Society is that you get to learn the plants close up. There's 35 chapters in Native Plant Society, and people all over the state are experts in their area, and they can help you learn about the native plants. And you can donate also. That would be fantastic.
What inspired you to get involved with the California Native Plant Society and native conservation?
Well, I got into it by accident. I'm a very bad gardener, and I wanted a low maintenance garden. And it wasn't until I tried native plants in the home garden that I saw that they succeeded in my garden with very little maintenance requirements, watering requirements, and so on and so forth. What I didn't know at that time was that native plants have many more benefits than just low maintenance. So they provide habitat for wildlife, they conserve energy, they don't consume pesticides or fertilizers, and they provide beauty to your garden. Your native plant garden is a mirror of what we see in our beautiful open spaces.
And what about you, Vicki?
I've been birding for a long time, and I love birds. I just have a spiritual connection to birds. And so the times that I would be birding, I'd be looking at the plants that they're either nesting in or eating upon or hanging out in. And I would wonder about those plants. And many times people would say, "Oh, yes, where is that bird that you were talking about, Vicki?" So in trying to locate the bird, I would have to say, "Well, that's in the valley oak tree or in the coyote bush." Um, so I, so it was a concern for birds. Their populations are in sharp decline right now. So planting native plants will help them not be in such sharp decline. Hi there. This plant right here is called brittle bush. This bush I became acquainted with maybe about 30 years ago. I found in a native plant nursery a little plant about that big. And I thought, oh, I'm going to plant that in my parking strip because how big could it get? So it got very large. It's not good for a parking strip. But some plants, when you see them in the wild, are very scraggly and small. But boy, when you put them in the protected area of a garden, then they just go hog wild. And this plant is an example. My plant got to be about 6 feet tall, about 10 feet wide. So one time I thought, oh, I can't have it this big because nobody can walk on the sidewalk. So I chopped it all up and I threw all the choppings down and made mulch in my garden, in my front garden. And it was rainy. And lo and behold, one of those little pieces of chopping sprouted. And I'm a gardener. Am I going to pull that out and throw it in the compost pile? No. I pulled it out of the ground. I put it in a 4-inch pot and it grew. And then I put it in a 1-gallon pot and then it grew. And I thought, oh, what am I going to do? I can't grow it in my yard because it's a big plant. So I gave it to Arvin and he planted it here. And now it's growing like a weed. I want to introduce you to this nice ground cover here. It hasn't become a native plant until just recently, maybe about 5 years ago. It's found all over the world, and it goes by different names. It's had many different name changes, but it's a most remarkable plant. It is very drought tolerant. In my garden, what I did is I just planted a couple of little branches of it, stuck it in the ground, watered it, it rooted, and I have not ever watered it. The most remarkable thing about this plant is, first of all, it has a high nectar flower. And incidentally, this is Lippia, but it has a high nectar flower, which is good for bees and other insects that need that quick energy. If you want to keep it low, you just stomp on it. Or don't water it very much. You can water it and it will get kind of fluffy. It'll get a little higher and get a whole bunch of flowers all over it. It's a very good plant in your native garden for those spaces that are just maybe kind of dry, need a little covering, but I do like Lippia.
How does the California Native Plant Society engage the public in native plant gardening and restoration?
Well, uh, the Native Plant Society is entirely volunteer based, as Vicky mentioned. So we would not exist without volunteers. It's average, ordinary people like you and me who join the society, who volunteer to serve on committees, to serve on the board. Um, we organize many, many activities for the public to participate in. So a simple example is we organize public lectures at public libraries on topics related to native plant gardening or the ecosystem or even other aspects of native plants photography. And people are welcome to attend these events. Then free of there's no charge to the public. And if their interest is piqued, there are activities like gardening they could practice in their own homes. We organize a native plant garden tour that they could take part in. There's a wildflower show that people can come and attend. So there are many ways to get involved.
We also have projects throughout the county, uh, in city parks and county parks, where you can get a hands-on experience of tending and weeding and caring for native plant gardens.
How can individuals in the community make the biggest impact to native plants?
Well, I think the biggest impact that you can make is to tear out your lawn and plant a native plant garden. That just extends that wild land into your neighborhood. And as I just mentioned previously, our chapter has different projects throughout the county in city parks and county parks where you can go and you can plant native plants, you can talk to other volunteers about native plants, you can ask them about questions because the people who head up those projects are knowledgeable people about native plants. Everybody's constantly learning, so if you just hang out with native plant people, you will learn something.
Arvind, do you have anything to add?
I just want to emphasize to folks the importance of native plant habitats. Native plant habitats support the greatest number of wildlife, and that's what biodiversity is. And I think Vicky has a good example of if you look at a bird and you look at its mouth part, it tells you what the bird likes to eat. This picture is that of a sparrow, and you see that it has a short, stubby, pointed beak. It likes to eat seeds. There are other birds, Vicky, you could tell us about and what they like to eat instead of seed-eating sparrows.
You can always tell what a bird's favorite habitat by just looking at their beak. There are some ducks that have like bills that are kind of shaped like a shovel, and they're called northern shovelers. And they like to shovel the shallows along the edges of a creek or a lake. Birds that have long curved bills will exploit mudflats, and the length of their bill actually determines what they will be able to eat. So a bird that has a long bill that's straight will eat something different than a bill that is very short.
Are there any upcoming events the public should be aware of?
Absolutely. There are events organized by the Native Plant Society throughout the year, but I'll mention two major events that are coming up. On April 18th and 19th, that's a weekend, Saturday and Sunday, our chapter organizes its annual Growing Natives Garden Tour. And this is a tour of private home gardens, more than 50 of them spread all over the South Bayan Peninsula. And it's an open house format. You register, you get a list of 50 plus addresses, and you pick and choose which gardens you want to go and see. And for people new to native plant gardening, this is a great way to see established native plants gardens in our area and figure out what appeals to them, what plants look interesting, talk to the owners, talk to the designers, and get ideas to take back home. That is one big event coming up. The second one is the Wildflower Show, which I believe is April 26th at the West Valley College. And the Wildflower Show is a day-long affair where if you want to learn names of the wildflowers in an area, many of them will be collected, accurately labeled, and displayed in very pleasing in a very pleasing manner. But in addition to the wildflower display itself, there are public lectures you can attend. There are tours of the campus of Native Plant Gardens on the West Valley campus. So you can partake of all of this. It's free admission, free parking, and it's a great way to learn about native plants.
What gives you hope for the future of California's native landscapes?
People who are interested in wildlife, they're interested in preserving it. It's amazing when I lead field trips and the reactions of people. Some people are just overwhelmed by what they see, particularly out in Coyote Ridge, which Open Space Authority leads trips out at Coyote Ridge, which is in South San Jose. Just the interest that people are taking in the wildlands, and people are concerned about climate change too.
Thank you, Arvin and Vicki, for sharing your knowledge of native plants with us. I hope it will inspire some of us to create native gardens of our own.